Hello, everybody, and I want to thank all of our members who have agreed to read over the past years, and I hope this is a resource that will be helpful for new readers as well. I wanted to share some exciting news with you in that we will be starting to use a lectionary book instead of just the printed out sheets of the readings every Sunday. And I think this will be a really good step for us to improve our readings in terms of the quality of the presentation, but also in the ease of use for each of you as, as a worship volunteer as well. Of course, you know, the text that we read each week, they are the central core of everything that we talk about and that we do during the worship service. And God delivers his word to us so that the Holy Spirit can bring us faith. And that is the whole point of the word, is to deliver faith. The reformers like to talk about the 4 or 5 solas, and one of those was sola scriptura, that God only conveys faith through his word, whether that be the word made flesh, Jesus, his saving presence through the Holy Spirit in baptism, the word itself, Holy Communion, etc. But the word brings faith, and Jesus is that word, that sola scriptura, only through the word. And as a reader, your delivery of those texts helps to prepare the worshiper to hear what God is going to be telling them, and so that they can really internalize that word and think on it and make it a part of their core, if you will, before they get to hear the pastor's message. So then they can contextualize it and apply it to their everyday life. And so this is why, you know, being a reader is such an important thing, and why we obviously want to be prepared to do it. So here's a picture of what that new book will look like. There's one for each year in the 3-year cycle, A, B, and C, and that will be up on the lectern for you to read. It also has ribbons in there. The maroon ribbon typically is placed where the first 2 readings are, and then the gold ribbon for the gospel, so that if the previous person before you closes the book, you can just quickly use the ribbon to find your spot. It's also arranged by the calendar year, the church calendar year. So, and during the season of Pentecost, it's by calendar date rather than by the so many Sundays after Pentecost. It'll simply be like, for like this week, it'll say the week of August or September 4th through the 10th, I think, or something like that. Yeah, September 4th through the 10th. So, so let's take a look at that. Why this change? Well, currently we cut and paste the readings from the bulletin into a new document every time. And then we have to save that and then print it and then, you know, punch the holes in it, put it in the notebook, and it's just another thing to do. And it's pretty straightforward. It's not that difficult, but it is one more step, right? One more thing to remember each week, one more thing to take care of on the checklist. But since our practice is to use this lectionary every Sunday, and we know what the readings are going to be that far out in advance, it makes sense to have a permanent book of those, and for use by our church in the future. And typically our church uses the same lectionary during the course of a hymnal, because these books are published for that purpose. And we typically have only published new hymnals about every 40 years. Our current one was printed in 26, so it's about halfway through its life cycle, perhaps. But I suspect that with the changing of technology, etc., that might be our last hymnal that's printed anyway. As you know, we've been printing it on our own through Lutheran Service Builder. And but so this set of texts, I think, will be quite lasting. And so we have that. Let me just get rid of my circle here so you can see the rest of that. Maybe I can't do that while we're going. But anyway, lastly, this book, it's not just that I don't have to print anymore, but the other thing about it is lots of really interesting helps that can help you in your readings, and that's what we'll go through next. I'd like to show you this quick little video here. There's no words to it or anything, but just kind of gives you a look inside the book, and I'll kind of narrate a few things here. But as you look at it, first of all, there's the ribbons. There's the maroon ribbon, and there's the Old Testament reading for this Sunday. And then you'll have to just kind of know there at the top it said the Old Testament reading for the blank Sunday after Pentecost. That's one thing you will have to take a look at your bulletin for before you get up there. But other than that, everything else is printed for you. And then you'll see those little arrows that are at the end of the lines. Those are to tell you that you can read to the next line without interruption. And then also off to the right-hand column are the pronunciation guides. And if there's all caps on a section, they are that's where the emphasis should be. Also, where there's maroon brackets, like you see at the beginning of that reading there, that means it's an extended reading, and you'll need to know if you need to read the part within the brackets or not. Secondly, there's varying indentations. Basically, if a line is indented farther than the line above it, it's part of the section above it. So while there may be, you don't want to have one great big run-on sentence, it's all part of the same thought and part of the same subject. So you will want to keep that in mind as you're practicing your reading. And so this is the only drawback going to this. Without actually physically photocopying every page, you won't see those indentations, of course, until you get up there and look at it on Sunday morning. But that's the only thing that you would really need to look at Sunday morning, is just to double check that the reading that's in the book matches up with the reading in the bulletin, and make sure you're not just supposed to read a shorter portion of it. And then just to kind of be conscious of those indentation, those pauses, those breaks as you're reading, and they're there just to naturally help you see where the end or where the phrases break up. And then lastly, there's a maroon square at the end of every reading. All right. So, summary. What can you expect from us here at the office? Well, you'll get an email early in the week, or even maybe the week prior if I'm ahead of the game, containing the full bulletin, not just the lectionary. And you'll want to look at those and practice with those. And when you come to church, that lectionary book should be on the lectern, should just stay there. And with the ribbon in it, the ribbon might be on from the week before. So be sure you've got the right page open. So in order to do that, be sure you arrive to church in plenty of time to check on that. I would suggest maybe 9 o'clock so that you can make sure the pages have the ribbons at the right place, or the book is open to where you want it. And maybe take a last minute look at some of those pronunciation guides and the phrasing to be able to ask me any questions you might have. And then, of course, to join our prayer group like we always do between 9:05 and 9:10. All right, I think